All right. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our electronic Committee of the Whole public input session meeting on September 30th, 2020. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Regional Council is practicing physical distancing. The majority of our councillors are participating electronically, while Councillors Foxton, Chair Redman, and myself are present in the council chambers at 150 Frederick Street in Kitchener. The purpose of this meeting is to hear delegations regarding regional council composition and the preferred option of maintaining the status quo. No decisions will be made at this meeting. The meeting is being held to hear from you. Notice of this meeting was posted on the region's website, advertised in local newspapers, and via social media. If you're watching this meeting via our live webcast and you'd like to speak at the meeting, please contact the regional clerk, and I'm going to read out the email address, regionalclerk@regionofwaterloo.ca, or you can provide written comments after the meeting to the same address, regionalclerk@regionofwaterloo.ca. We are now going to take the roll call.
Chair Redman.
Present.
Councillor Armstrong.
Here.
Councillor Clarke.
Here.
Councillor Erb.
Present.
Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Galloway.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Yaworski.
Here.
Councillor Jowett. Councillor Kiefer.
Here.
Councillor Lawrence.
Here.
Councillor McGarry.
Here.
Councillor Nowak.
Present.
Councillor Shantz.
Here.
Councillor Strickland.
Here.
Councillor Vervanovic.
Here.
All present.
All present. I'm now going to call on Chair Redman for a statement regarding Orange Shirt Day.
Thank you, Chair Clarke. Today is Orange Shirt Day across Canada, a day for awareness and support for the survivors and families of Canada's residential school system. We acknowledge the harmful past and present consequences of our residential schools. Orange Shirt Day was inspired by the story of Phyllis Webstead, a First Nation elder in Williams Lake, BC. It was this time of year, the end of September, when Indigenous children were removed from their homes to attend residential schools. For Phyllis, the color orange always reminded her of her experience at residential school, and she said, how my feelings didn't matter, how no one cared, and I felt like I was worth nothing. All of us little children were crying, and no one cared. The last residential school in Canada closed in 1996, less than 15 years ago. It is estimated that 6,000 children died due to Canada's residential school system. 150,000 children attended these schools. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's work, including the 94 calls to action in 2015, was when this horrifying part of Canada's past came to the forefront of the minds of Canadians and was acknowledged as a cultural genocide. Although there were no residential schools in Waterloo Region, we recognize there are residential school survivors and family members in our community who carry this intergenerational trauma of the past. May we remember them every day so we can move forward towards reconciliation. The way we see our country and plan for our community as municipal leaders should be informed by our past. Today, we honor the survivors and the families of our residential school system. May we remember each of them and every day as we walk together towards reconciliation. And I'd like to end off this section with a prayer by Chief Laforme from his book, Living in the Tall Grass. He is the chief of the Mississauga. We give thanks to the Creator for allowing this gathering. We ask that He guide us and forgive us when we falter and disappoint. For though we aspire to greatness, we are only human. Grant us a clear mind, a pure heart, and courage, a clear mind to make well thought out, intelligent decisions, a pure heart to make decisions that are without personal bias or desire, and the courage to use both a clear mind and a pure heart in our lives. Let us set aside small differences. Let us concentrate on real issues. Let us not be bogged down in rhetoric. Let us live each day with a feeling of accomplishment and pride. Most important, let us remember that we are not enemies, nor are we adversaries. We share a similar past, a kindred spirit, and a common heritage. We must always remember the real reason we gather, to do the right thing for our people, for our children, for our future.
Thank you, Chair Redman. I'm now going to ask for any declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, Tim Brubaker from the Regional Clerk's Office is going to provide a brief presentation on the council composition process. And we'll have questions at the end.
Thank you, Chair Clarke. I think everybody can see that. So we'll go through, we're just going to briefly touch on how the composition review has taken place and why we're going through it. There we go. So the Municipal Act requires the region to review the number of members that represent each area municipality after every second election. So for us, it needs to be done after the 2018 election and then before the end of 2020. So before the end of this year, council must either pass a resolution to maintain the current composition of regional council or pass a bylaw to change the composition. And then we'll need to repeat this process again after the 2026 election. Whatever decision council comes to must be endorsed by the triple majority, which is a majority of the votes on regional council. And we must have resolutions from a majority of the councils of the area municipalities. And those area municipalities must represent a majority of the electors in the region. So for a practical standpoint, in our case, that will mean Kitchener and any three of the other municipalities, or Cambridge and Waterloo and any of the three of the townships, or Cambridge, Waterloo, Wilmot, and Woolwich. Any combination of those would result in the triple majority. If we fail to get a triple majority for either one of those, for either a bylaw or the resolution, the resolution to maintain the status quo, then the Municipal Act allows the minister to change the composition of regional council through a regulation. So when we began the project in March, we defined the scope narrowly based on the legislation. We focused strictly on the distribution of elected officials across the region. We did not look at any of the structural changes to council, being a double direct system, who's representing each municipality or amalgamation. We stuck strictly to how many councillors from each municipality. We were guided by these principles, being representation by population, ensuring a balance between the rural and urban communities. We looked at current and future population trends and the principle of maintaining effective representation. So we came up with 4 options, the first being the status quo. And we recognize that under the current composition, there isn't a strict balance between with the principle of representation by population, but that there may be an acceptable balance for ensuring the balance between urban and rural populations. The issue that we found, though, is that although we haven't had a municipality that has grown faster than the others, the balance is still about the same as it was in 2001 when the current system was set up. The number of residents that are represented by each councillor has risen by approximately 9,000 and is projected to rise to approximately 39,000 residents per regional councillor. It is approximately 39,000 people per each regional councillor, and it's projected to increase to 43,000 people per regional councillor by 2026. So in that regard, we came up with 3 other options, one being the 25,000 residents for an area municipality becoming 1 councillor. That would have increased council to 24 members of council. We struck a target of 30,000 residents on the average for all of regional council, which would have brought council to 20 members. And then we devised a system of combined urban and rural representatives, which would have created a 19-member council. So based on those options, a survey was put out on Engage Waterloo Region for 6 weeks over the summer to look at what the public thought. As you can see on the screen there, the option 1, the status quo, was selected as the first choice for the majority, or sorry, not the majority, but most people selected that as their first choice. Most people, the option that came in second was option 4, but it was also the second choice for a lot of people as well. At the same time, the options were circulated to the area municipalities for their input. We have received correspondence from all of the area municipalities, and we have Cambridge, Waterloo, Wellesley, Wilmot, and Woolwich have responded in support of option 1. Kitchener and North Dumfries have expressed a desire to have the region look at a double direct representation as an alternative model. Then last week, Regional Council selected option 1 as its preferred option to be presented at this public input meeting tonight, which is required by the legislation to hear from members of the public. So these are our next steps. Tonight we are having that public meeting. On October 14th, we will bring a report to Council, and Council will determine what direction it wants to do, whether it would like to pass a resolution confirming or amend with a bylaw the current composition of Council. So Council will declare its intention at that meeting. We will then circulate that intention to the area municipalities to seek their approval for the triple majority. And then on November 25th, assuming we have the triple majority consent from the area municipalities, Council will then be able to either pass a resolution supporting the current composition or a bylaw changing the composition of Council. And if there's any questions, we can take them now.
I'm not seeing any questions. All right. Then we're going to move on to the delegation. Before commencing with hearing from delegations, I'd like to remind all delegations of some guidelines for participation. Please leave your video or camera turned off and your microphone audio muted until you're called upon to speak. Delegations will be allotted 5 minutes to speak, and I'll provide a 1-minute warning reminder when your 5 minutes is nearing completion. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in an immediate removal from the meeting: interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, turning your camera on at inappropriate times, and hate speech or defamatory comments. I will now call upon the delegation as listed in the agenda. Bruce Gordon, Chair of Barnraisers.
Thank you, Chair. I'm assuming everyone can hear me.
Hear you but not see you.
That was for your benefit.
No, this is much better. Thanks, Bruce. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much. And first, I want to say I wish and hope that you and yours are all safe and healthy in these unique and disruptive times, scary times in some ways. I was going to use the word unprecedented, but a friend told me a few weeks ago to use this phrase: there is an unprecedented use of the word unprecedented. I decided not to use that. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Barnraisers Council, which I chair, did submit a 1-page paper to Regional Council on this, And what I wanted to do was just emphasize a few points from our perspective. First, I understand the reason that this review has to take place and the timeframes, and that was a good summary that we just saw. And the report does deal with regional council, but what I pointed out, or we pointed out in the paper, is that when you look at the whole region, there are another 43 municipal councillors. So that means we already have representation either at a township or city level and at the regional level of about one elected official per 10,000 residents. Secondly, in the absence of any broader overall governance review, it was important to us to point out that it's our view that the balance between townships and cities has to be maintained in this current form of regional and then city and township government. Third, we believe it would be better if regional council had or could take the time to look at a more complete electoral picture and refrain from making a change now because a review has to be done at this point. There is always a chance to look at how to run our region, a wonderful region, even better than we do it now. Lastly, we believe that trying to accomplish regional planning, service delivery, unifying bylaws, unifying things that make it easier for businesses and people to move here and operate here should be something that is also balanced in looking at the number of regional councillors. Those are the points that I wanted to cover that were in our paper. I just wanted to emphasize those. And again, thank you to the Regional Council for giving me or us, Barnraisers, a chance to comment. I'd be glad to try and answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Very good timing, very concise. Always nice to hear from the Barnraisers, and your active participation is always appreciated. Are there any questions? Councillor Jowett.
Well, Bruce, just because no one else is asking a question, I thought I would just put my handy up there and say, so what have I missed? Just kidding.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
These discussions have happened before, right?
Well, Bruce did only take about 3 minutes, so he could almost repeat his whole presentation for you, but you'll have to watch it. It'll be on video. I don't see any other questions, so thank you very much for coming. We do appreciate your input very much. I'll now ask for any delegations that have called or joined the meeting partway through. And no one has joined us. All right. And there have been no requests to speak. Thank you. No communications have been received, other than, I believe, the presentation from the Barnraisers. I received it. I think everyone did. Yes. All right.
It was sent out in communication from the last meeting, so we can recirculate it.
We can recirculate it if it... Yeah, thank you. Right. I'm now going to make a call for any other business. Okay, seeing none, I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Galloway. Please use your yes or no buttons to vote, or raise your hand in chambers. I believe that's unanimous. The meeting is adjourned. That was way better than some public input meetings that I have chaired.